Hello everybody, it's Noon here, and welcome to part 3 on my series of What Are All These Buttons in Europa Universalis IV. We've already covered the main menu, the main screen, and this episode we're going to look at the production interface here, and then we're going to look at all of the map modes down in the bottom right here. So, let's get started with the production interface. So, this menu in general is called production, but it basically is like any kind of interaction that you can do with your provinces, that you can do the same thing in lots of different provinces. So, for example, you can build your troops in the production interface. You produce troops. You can produce ships. And both of these are fairly straightforward. You'll notice when you go into the production interface, the map changes. So it's this gray thing. And then, say I select infantry. And now, once I select it, it shows me all of the places that I can build it. So I might just build 2 there, and you can see now these provinces are now busy building. And one thing I'll say about the production interface is pretty much everything that you can do here you can do elsewhere. So for example, if we select the province view interface, we can also recruit regiments here, right? And now if we go back into production mode, these 3 all look the same, right? They're all producing the same thing. And then the same of all the other stuff. This is also where you recruit mercenaries. Ooh, I'm out of money, so let me just quickly take a bunch of loans here. That should be plenty, thank you. You shouldn't recklessly take loans like that, but I'm just trying to make a point. Mercenaries quite useful. I'm not going to talk about the strategy for them or anything, but basically you can scroll down and you can see where they're all available. And some of them will be you can see all of these colors here. They're based in a certain place, so these ones are origins in Kataro. So if we just press F, we can search for Kataro. Where is that? It's down here somewhere. Oh, here. Kataro, which is owned by Venice. Sure. Okay, and so they're only hireable within a distance of there. We can select them again, origin Kataro, and you can see that it's brighter green over on the left side. It means it's closer to where they spawn, and here it'll only take 9 days to recruit them. Whereas over here, it'll cost 59 days because it's they have to travel the whole way or whatever. And here, they can still go. But sometimes you'll own provinces, say if you're playing a colonial game and you own something in India here, you might not be able to use the same mercs. But conversely, when you get land in different areas, you get access to new mercenary companies. So that's useful, and this is the best way to recruit mercs, or the most convenient way. You'll also notice down here it tells you about your force limit, current composition, and what you have building already. So we've got 3 more on the way. So we've got 30 out of 40 max total at the moment, and once these 3 are built, we'll have 33. There'll be 22 infantry, 8 cavalry, and 0 cannons. Now, it is quite close to the start of the game. I just conquered some land, so I can show you some stuff here later on. But I also added a bunch of tech, again, so I can build buildings that you don't have access to at the start of the game. So you won't normally be able to build these mortars right at the start of the game, the cannons, but they're very useful once you can get them, and it'll show you them as well. And mercenaries will also have cannons if you have cannons. So yeah, again, there's a sort of complicated thing that determines what the mercenaries are like, how big they are, how much manpower they have, and whatnot. But I'm not trying to do a deep dive on mercenaries at the moment. And then there's define army templates. I have literally never used this. I do it manually, but I'm pretty sure the way it works is you can say you want armies that are 6, 3, 1. 10 provinces will be used to build it. It'll cost 166 each time, and we'll call this the exemplars. It'll cost 10,000 manpower because there's 10 troops, and it'll cost 4 gold per month to maintain this many troops, and it'll take 117 days. And so then we can... Oh, we didn't have enough manpower. Ooh, okay, just a sec. I'll add some by cheating. Okay, so here we are again. I've just added 50,000 manpower for the sake of this example, and now when we select it, we can build wherever. So let's just pop one down here, and it automatically recruits a whole bunch of the nearby, it uses a bunch of the nearby provinces to build it. Again, I've never really used that, so you can do it if you want. Next up is Naval Units. So this is almost exactly the same, except they're boats, and you can only build on coastal provinces. So you can see here, it's like, these other ones are already busy building stuff, but also they're inland anyway, so, you know, they're red, but they're greened out because they're busy. These ones are red because they're not on the ocean, so they can't actually build boats, but they're not greened out with stripes because they're not busy doing other stuff. You can see Constantinople isn't currently owned by us, but we could build a bark, which is like a trade ship, here. And you can see there's a very helpful mouse over, shift click to build 5, control click to build 10. Sure. And if you want, once you've started building this stuff, you can cancel it. So here, if I click minus, I get all of the stuff back from it. Minus, get the stuff back. And also you can queue, right? So I can build like galley, 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 bark, and then delete them again. I'm pretty sure if you do it immediately, you get the full amount back, though I could be wrong about that, don't quote me. The same thing with army templates, but navy templates. So let's move on to make core. Now, I can't actually do any of these right at the moment. That's because everything that I own, all of the provinces that I own at the moment, are already like my cores. But just before I started recording, I thought I would just do a quick little conquest to show you what this is all about. So I'm still at war. You can see down here I have 100% of the war. This is the war score screen, which perhaps I should go over. But I'm going to offer peace to my enemy, and I'm going to demand full annexation of both of these two provinces of everyone that I'm fighting. And hey, it's not important for this example, but I just can't help myself from taking all of the money that they have, because that's what you do when you win a war, you know? So I'll send my demands, and they'll accept. Great. Glorious victory. Ottoman conquest of Trebizond. And you can see we get this little pop-up here. When you click it, you get taken into the main menu, stability and expansion. And this was something I didn't actually show you in the main menu video because I didn't bother doing this little conquest before I started. But this overextension bit, normally it sits at 0 when you don't have any land that isn't yours. And if you click manage, you can see all of the provinces that aren't yours. And this also shows you their development, their culture, and how much they're contributing to your overextension, which, you know, has a bunch of negative consequences. And how much it's going to cost you in admin power, admin mana, to do it. And so you can just click make core here, and it'll start doing it. I'll show you with one of those. So if we do Theodoro, boom, now it's starting to core, and you can see there's this little ticker comes up, same as the little tickers on the production interface when you build troops, right? So, oh, where are they? Yeah, just here, little tickers that show you how far through it is being produced. Same thing, this one shows you how far through it is coring. So the easiest way to deal with this is just like when this pops up, just hit the little drop down notification and then hit make core. But you can also do it through the production interface in the make core tab, and you can see Trabzon, which used to be called Trebizond under its previous owners. So it's got the same basic thing with the plus button. You can press and spend 52 to gain a core in this province. It would take 33 months, or you can just click it in this menu. Alright, next up is Missionaries. So up top you can see we have one missionary, and again you can do the same thing in the religion screen. It shows you all of the same information, and I prefer to do it here, but it's effectively the same stuff. So it shows you the name of the province, the religion of the province, how much it's contributing or detracting from your national unity, how long it'll take to convert, and how much it'll cost. And you can see all of these are 0. So if we go back here, same thing. Name, religion, how long it'll take, and how much it'll cost. And this is annoying that none of these are convertible. It's because we have guaranteed dhimmi autonomy, which is a state's issue. So we can just revoke that, actually. Let's do that. We'll revoke that privilege of theirs, and now we should be able to convert some. Yeah, there we go. So if we want to convert Yanya over here, it would cost us 0.18 ducats a month, and it'll take 144 months to do it. Normally I wouldn't bother converting when it's going to take that long. I would wait and get some modifiers. You can see you get this, you can convert provinces to sunny drop down as well. So again, a lot of the things that you can do in here, there are much more convenient ways to do it elsewhere. But just for the sake of showing you, let's convert Yanya. So let's hit that Okay, great. And now you just see this little preacher guy appears and starts preaching. And again, there's this little menu that shows you how long it's going to take. And in province view also shows up here. Next up is local autonomy. And this is legitimately a very useful screen. Autonomy is a stat that provinces have that you can find in province view over here on the left-hand side. Autonomy, this one's 6.4%. And basically, you want 0 in all of your provinces, because as you can see, any small amount of autonomy reduces how much we get in trade power, production efficiency, tax, manpower, sailors, land force, and naval force. And that's bad. So you want everywhere to be at 0. And you can adjust it up or down. Here we can, as you see when you mouse over, it's below 10%, so you can't manually reduce it. We're just going to have to wait. We can manually increase it, and one of the reasons we might want to do that is if there are rebels. So let's find somewhere where there are actually rebels. We'll just mouse over the outliner here. Oh yeah, Yatna, of course. So they're going to be mad because if we mouse over here, we have an active missionary that's causing a bunch of unrest. Any positive unrest will start rebels like being active there, and in particular it's noble rebels. So if we wanted to deal with that and just be like, I don't want these rebels to pop up under any circumstances, we could increase autonomy by 25, which will last until so 30 years until 77, and it'll do unrest minus 10. So this should drop back to 0. So let's do that, and indeed it does. But with that increased autonomy, now we're losing a lot of tax production and trade and manpower. So you really don't want to increase autonomy pretty much ever if you can avoid it. On the contrary, you really do want to reduce autonomy whenever possible. And we don't have anywhere here with autonomy high enough to reduce. Oh yeah, so because we just put it up in Yanya, we can't put it down again. So let me just give some of these provinces some extra autonomy. Okay, I have now done that. So if we look at the production interface now for local autonomy, we can sort by local autonomy, and we see there are these ones, Saruhan down here and Silistra up here, that both have quite a bit of local autonomy. So then now if we decrease autonomy in Silistra, it will reduce that, but increase local unrest. So if we do that, currently unrest minus 1, now popped up to 8, and it's added a new rebel faction over here on the right-hand side. Okay, so just to show you that again from the province view so you can see all of this stuff happen. So total 0.21, manpower 232, now if I reduce autonomy, manpower 348, total 0.31. So you can see we've added 50% on to our total income by reducing autonomy 25%. So it can really make the difference between your economy being functional or not to reduce the autonomy in a bunch of provinces. So yeah, consider that. And keep it in mind as something to do if you're like, where are all my ducats going? Yeah, check what the autonomy situation is like. But be careful, because if you reduce a whole lot of them at once, you're going to get a bunch of rebels, and you're going to have to deal with that. So let's move on to change culture. So this menu lets you change the culture of your provinces. So if you wanted to change culture to Greek, all of these ones could be converted to Greek, and we can just spend some diplomana to do it. So let's convert Saruhan, for example. Yep. Great. Now that's going to take a while. There's a bar there. Good. And yep. You can do that. There's a bunch of reasons that you might want to do that. For example, if you want to form a nation, that you need to be of a certain culture. So for example, if we wanted to form Italy, we might go conquer a bunch of Italy, then convert our culture to Italian, make Italian an accepted culture, and then switch it over, make it our primary culture, and then become Italy. But whatever, that's sort of advanced. Again, it's one of those things that you'll know you need it when you know you need it. Other than that, this is all pretty straightforward, so let's move on to buildings. There's a lot to be said about buildings, or I added tech so that I could have access to a bunch of buildings. So when you start off the game, you basically can only build a castle, I'm pretty sure, and I don't think anyone starts off the game building castles. So effectively you have to wait a few tech levels to start getting, churches or mosques, as it's called if you're an Islamic country. And these all do lots of different things. I'm not doing a full guide to buildings here, but basically the ones that you want, you'll unlock them one at a time. So start off with a mosque, and you want to look for ones that give you the best return on investment. So if we're getting like 0.2 ducats a month, we've got to pay off 100 ducats on this, which, it'll take a while, but if you're playing a long game, you'll get it. So do that. Plus, also, if the province gets bigger, you'll, be earning a higher proportion. So if you develop your provinces up, which we'll talk about more next time, other things that are useful are trade. And again, you just want the one that adds a big number. Normally the drop-off is pretty steep. The specifics about like what's worth it and what's not are sort of hotly disputed, and you'll find different things. Workshop makes you produce more goods. These ones, the numbers will be much smaller, but that is fine because it gets multiplied quite significantly. So if you have a high value high value trade good produced in the province, it's usually worth investing in one of these. So anyway, there you go. And they'll take a while to build, and they're also visible over on the right-hand side here, as all of these things are. You can see our culture conversion, our missionary, core construction, buildings, ships, regiments. They're all things that we've covered in these last few tabs, and they're visible in the outliner over here. Anyway, again, I'm not going to go into a full detailed thing about buildings. That's basically how it works. They're pretty straightforward. All of them say what they do on the tin. So next up is development. And development is very important in this game. I mentioned in a previous video about institutions and how they sort of define the rhythm of the game. And one of the ways that you can get access to institutions that are spawned far away, so for example, colonialism is often spawned by Portugal over here, and so it'll take a really long time to filter through all of, the Mediterranean over to us, especially given that we're hostile to the Catholics because we're Muslim and we're, permanently at war with Europe. So, for that reason, it's not going to spread to us because people aren't friendly with us. So we're going to have to, make sure that we figure out the Renaissance on our own. And the way that you do that is by spending mana points to develop your provinces. And there's a few ways you can do that. Again, the production interface is completely useful, a good way to do it. But you can also go to province view and do it here. And so the way development works, you have 3 stats, one for each of the types of power. So admin buys base tax, Diplo buys production, and military buys manpower. And you can see that all of these things have a bunch of other impacts. So it also increases your crown land, which is, shared by your estates. For production, it increases trade power, shipbuilding time, so on and so forth. And tax is really valuable because it increases trade power as well as tax income directly, as well as a bunch of other stuff, as you can see. So this is really useful. And if you have a Renaissance or colonialism or whatever that you're trying to spawn, each click will also add a certain amount to this ticker. I might splice in a video of that now. Hey, so here I am in this game as Muscovy, and if I open the Institutions tab, you can see that the Renaissance has spawned over here in Milan. Again, just look at the institution view for this. And so these provinces that are green slashed are ones that have the Renaissance sort of on the way. So if we open here, institutions, you can see Renaissance plus 2.6 a month. It's currently at 17.08 and will be there in 1455. And there's a whole lot of things that affect how fast institutions spread. So if we look at our province here, Rzhev, it's getting 0.06 a month. And this is kind of like what I was saying with the Ottomans, that if it spawns somewhere far away in a country that's sort of hostile to you for whatever reason, it's going to take a much longer time to arrive. So one of the things that you can do to speed that up is by forcing it to spawn in one of your provinces. So I'm going to go here to the development view and organize by cost for the cheapest one. I'm actually going to do Kostroma because it has cloth, so I think it's going to stay cheaper for longer, but it doesn't really matter for the purposes of this video. It's also woods, which means the dev cost is higher, but I think there's basically nowhere in Muscovy that's amazing for it. So yeah, we'll go with Kostroma, that's fine. And what we're going to do here is spend a bunch of our mana points, and you can see up here I've got a whole bunch again. I just like cheated for the sake of this example. Every time you click one, a little bit of Renaissance appears, and you can see if you mouse over Renaissance plus 1.83. So I'm just going to do this a bunch, and you can see as it gets bigger, it's earning more per month. There's also a bonus for having 20 development, so we're at 16 now, but if we get up to 20, so it's 0.09 at the moment, and now it's gone all the way up to 0.2. I should have checked when it was going to spawn at the start, but at the moment it reckons it's going to be in 1482, but we can just keep doing this. Oops. And now with this last one, the amount of Renaissance grows each time, so before we were getting plus 1 point something per level of development, but now we're getting plus 0.6, we're at 97.45, now expected to be present in 53, and so if we just get one more, it's now present. And so if we click out of this map mode and click back in again, we can see now Kostroma is strong green, meaning it's present, and it's now sending Renaissance out to all of the friendly provinces adjacent to it. One thing you can do, well, I should have actually showed you this before, but if you go to this state, you can set a state edict to reduce the local development cost. Wait, let's do it over for Moscow here, yeah. So you can do local development cost, makes it 10% cheaper. So now instead of costing 57, it's going to cost 52. And we can just do the same thing here. Again, this is not an efficient use of mana points. And, you know, I've just spent 2,000 or something, and we've only got it in 1.5 provinces here. But it's now spreading much faster. The other thing you can do to increase institution spread is this, just advancement effort, state edict of institution spread called advancement effort. It does make it more expensive, so at the moment we're earning a ducat here, ducat 0.6, and now it's 0.65, is about half as much, so it is expensive. Anyway, that's all I wanted to show you about developing. Oh, and then we can see here its presence in Muscovy. It's only fully present in 1 of 28 provinces, and so the more provinces that it's fully present in, the cheaper it costs to so-called embrace it, and that will mean that you lose all of the debuffs in tech research time. Anyway, that's all. Now back to the Ottomans. Cool. So that's sort of the main reason that you actually want to develop provinces, is to like get the Renaissance or whatever when you're on the other side of the world from where it spawns. But there are other reasons. It's a good way to spend mana when you have too much of it. So at the moment we're getting 0.82 and 700 manpower. If we do that a few more times, then we've got 1.1 and 1,600 manpower. So that's a really significant improvement for our investment. One thing to note is that the terrain significantly impacts development costs. So farmlands is cheap, mountains is expensive. Let's move on to states. This is not, again, the way that I would normally interact with states, but it's fine. So the way that I would normally do it is by going to province view, so just clicking on a province, say this one, Philibert, and there's this tab on the left, which is the province, and the tab on the right is the state. And you can see here it's like outlined the entire state, which is a bunch of provinces all together, and they've got a bunch of stats all together. You can do certain things here because we're Ottomans. We have, you know, certain bonus stuff. It shows you how much the state is producing altogether and how much is contributing to your governing capacity, as well as prosperity, which is sort of basically, if you have positive stability, it builds prosperity in a province, and it gives you bonuses. So if we go back here, you can see all of these interactions that you can do. So Ankara here, I unstated these ones so I could show you how this works. We've got this concentrate development, and click to make it a state. You'll also have this state drop-down thing that will cycle you between states that you can pick. And again, this is not how I would normally interact with states. As I say, I would use this button or just go through province view, but whatever, it's all the same. So concentrate developments will take development out of this, it's called a territory, which is like not a state yet. Again, if we go to this view, you can see it's a territory. This is a state. This is the capital state here, this light green. So if we concentrate development from Ankara, it will move development from that state into our capital. So let's go ahead and do that. Good. And that's actually going to, you can see it's reduced in development here. That's going to make it cheaper to make this a state. So if we look at Gelmian, it has 28 development. And if we make it a state, it'll cost us 0.21 in maintenance every month, but increase our income by about 0.7 when autonomy has been reduced to lower levels. Remember, we talked about autonomy before with the rebels and so on. And so provinces that aren't in a state have a minimum autonomy of 90. So you really are incentivized heavily to make provinces into states, but it's also expensive both in money and in admin power. And so here you can see it's actually going to earn us a profit of about 0.5 ducats a month if we make it a state. So it's probably worth it. One thing that's worth noting is that usually when you conquer a province and you make it into a state, once you conquer a province and you core it, you'll then make it into a state, and then you have to core it a second time. All of the provinces need to be cored a second time, but it happens instantly. I find that weird. I don't know exactly why that's the mechanic that they chose to go with, but it does significantly increase the cost of admin power to expand. And so for that reason, certain national ideas, such as core creation costs, which we can see here Ottomans have in their first national idea, that reduces how much admin power it costs to make something a core. And given that, you have to do it twice for a lot of provinces, that 20% adds up to a lot of admin power over the game. I said in the first video that admin power is the most valuable currency, and this is pretty much the reason why, is stating and coring. You can also do state edicts, which are quite useful. So, say Albania, the state over here, we can say we want to increase a centralization effort, which will change monthly autonomy by 0.03, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's quite a bit. So good, can do that. Or say over in Bulgaria here, we really want to develop it, right? We want to spend our, this is Bulgaria, yeah. We want to spend our military power to increase our development here, but it's expensive. And so we're going to give a state edict to Bulgaria, which reduces local development cost. You can see it'll reduce it for at least 12 months, but increase state maintenance by 200%. So again, if we look at Bulgaria here, income is 1.85, maintenance is 0.28, and if we click this, it's now reduced. We've lost 0.5 a month because of having that. So we've lost basically a third of our income from Bulgaria, this state, by having the edict on, and it's saving us quite a bit of military power, so it might be worth it, but it might not. So again, you might want to consider taking off edicts on states that have them if you're short on money, but on the other hand, they can be extremely useful, especially for institution spread and local development cost, and sometimes some of these other ones as well. Trade company investments are a little bit deep for the sake of this video. They're effectively buildings that you build in states that you've colonized overseas. Don't worry about them too much. You'll get notifications when you can use them, and they work pretty much like buildings, so it won't be too complicated by the time you get there. So let's move on to diplomacy. I actually really like this interface. It's one I only discovered relatively recently, but it's really cool. See, we've got all of our diplomats. We can just automatically assign them to a job. So say we want to placate countries nearby that are mad with us, that we have high aggressive expansion with, we can just automatically assign someone. And so if we unpause, that's this guy, Abdul Haziz. He's off improving relations with outraged countries. You can see there with that little lightning bolt. And if we want to cancel him, we can just click him out and he'll come back. It's not really the best. I mean, this can be really useful if you've got a lot of people angry with you and you just want to like hang out and do nothing for 5 years or whatever. You don't want to micromanage your diplomats. You can just like set them on these and like they'll go and do their own thing. But if we say like threatening countries, let's say we put all of them on there. Oh, we do have a few threatening countries. I was going to say I would expect that there won't be that many, but never mind. Apparently we've got a lot of people that we find threatening. So, but they'll sit idle, is what I was going to say. If you leave them. So if we click that now, Abdulaziz Haseki is idle, and that's because I've haven't unpaused yet. If I do, he'll go and get a job. This again is basically just like the Diplo actions tab, but organized differently. So, and in a very useful way. So say you're like, I want an alliance, but I don't know who will ally me. Come here, click it, and you can just see on the map literally who will ally you, and you can just, it takes you straight to the offer alliance screen, which is just really useful. And you can also scroll down here. You can see who the least, like how close they are to doing it. Yeah, it's really, really useful. Same thing with influence action. Influence actions, a bit less useful, but dynastic actions, royal marriage, same thing, extremely useful. And economy actions, this one I really like because of this steer trade and transfer trade power, which are quite powerful effects that let smaller countries like dedicate some of their economic power to you in the hope that you won't invade them, I guess, is the idea. So say I'm like, hey, Bosnia, I want you to send your merchants to me. And so 2 of their 2 merchants would steer trade towards Constantinople in our case, which is hilarious. They're just like that deeply cucked that they want to send it to us. But it's really useful that they'll do that. Ditto trade power, it's basically the same, but of my understanding of the game mechanics, a little bit weaker, but whatever. And without this interface, it's kind of a matter of like right-clicking on everyone and being like, you go to the economy actions and be like, okay, steer trade transfer, no. Oh, these guys will do it, great. But here it just tells you everyone who will do it. One thing to note is that if you ask one person to do it, say we get a Konlu, suddenly a whole lot of people will be less interested. Oh, I mean, actually, it was only one less person, but normally that's because we're the Ottomans and everyone is like, you know, terrified / envious of us. But in general, that will reduce the number of people who are keen to do it for you. But yeah, that's really useful. There are these other tabs here, papal actions, but we're not the Pope. Emperor actions, but we're not the Holy Roman Emperor, and great power actions, and we are a great power, so we can take on some foreign debt of Burgundy or Gilan if we wanted to pay them 50 gold. Yeah, let's do it just for fun. Good-o. And that's the end of the Diplo tab. Finally, exploit development. This is the opposite of the development one. You can take development out in exchange for manpower, sailors, or ducats. I would basically avoid doing this whenever possible because it's very rarely worth losing development to get a short-term tiny payment. So Sugla here, where's Sugla? It's going to cost 54 admin power to increase it by 1, and we get 17.8 ducats to reduce it by 1. So the question is 54 admin power worth more or less than 17 or 18 ducats? And I would say it's worth significantly more, like maybe like it might be worth 100 ducats or more. So it's just like very rarely cost efficient to take out the development. Nonetheless, it can be useful sometimes, and this is a good place to do it as any, but as with a lot of this stuff, I prefer to do it in the province view. So that brings us to the end of the production interface. Briefly, the ones that you're actually going to use a lot here are land units and naval units, local autonomy, buildings, and development and diplomacy, which is like half of them, which honestly is pretty good for such a big menu. So that's the end of the production interface. I am going to talk kind of quickly about some of these map overviews. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail about all of them for a variety of reasons, one of which is that I've customized mine somewhat, so yours will look a little bit different than this, but the basics are all there. So there's terrain, which for some reason the game loads in terrain mode, and you do not want terrain mode. You want political mode. Each nation is colored with its specific nation color. Yes, thank you. That's what I want. But if you click on these again, it'll cycle through them, and you can right-click on this to see which ones these are cycling through. So for this first box, for me, it's cycling through Terrain, Imperial, and Coalition. And if you mouse over these, it tells you exactly what it is. So Imperial view, it shows you who's the Emperor and all of these other people that has status within the Holy Roman Empire. If we look at trade, the ones that I've got set up here are trade and trade goods, which are exactly what they sound like. They show you what's being produced in each province, and the trade map view is really one that you're going to use quite a lot. Other than political map view, trade is probably one of the ones that I use the most. There's a lot of information in it, and trade, as I've said before, is a dark and secret magic only available to mages of the fourth circle of hell. And but basically you want things line go toward you. It shows your main trading port with this very, very small little illustration here. The little box on top of the box, the box on the box. Perfect. It shows you how much total trade power we have in this node, which is 139, which is 42%. And so you can also see that in this graph here. It shows you how much money is in this node, which is 6.4, and how much we collect, which is 4.7, and how much moves out, which is 2.2. And you'll notice that the money flowing out is actually 2.47, not 2.2. There's reasons for it. Deep and terrifying magic. Don't worry too much about it. But yeah, this is the trade view, and get familiar with it. Read some confusing Reddit threads about it. It'll do you well. By comparison, trade goods is very straightforward. Oh, it's cloth. Oh, it's fish. Diplo view is useful. It shows you who you have diplomatic relations with. So if we just go back here and say we want to offer an alliance to Bo... Oh, I don't have any diplomats. Let's just unpause for a sec. I'll send off to Poland. Yeah, let's ally Poland. That's nice and cursed. Perfect. They agreed. And now on our diplomat mode, they're blue. And there's different colors for different sorts of relations. And it will also show you claims. So say if I get Karakonlu here, they're married to Akonlu. Oh, sorry. No, they're independent. They're guaranteeing the independence of Karakonlu, sorry. They're allied and married with Mushaha, and they have claims on these provinces here. That's what the striped yellow ones are. They have a claim on this province, claim on this province, and they're coring these at the moment, and they're at war with Ardabel. So there you go, a bunch of information in the Diplo screen that's quite useful. Religious, pretty much what it says. I've got a few others behind these that you might find useful at various times. Region and areas. I use this because the information the game provides is sometimes a bit confusing, but whatever. Technology, we're just miles ahead of everyone, so this, because I cheated, so the screen isn't very interesting. Colonial Range is useful, but not relevant right now, but if you need it, this is like one time, 6 months from now, you'll be playing a game as Portugal, and you'll be like, oh, how do I know how far I can send a colonist? Just remember, there's a map mode for it. And indeed, if you right-click here, you can see add another map mode, and you can scroll through and see all of the ones, and say we want rivals, we can just add that one in there, and now it's behind there. And say I don't care about rivals anymore, I can get rid of it. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure all of these ones, the bottom 5 at least, start like this, so something like that. You'll also want the institutions one quite often, because it shows you which provinces you control do or don't have a certain institution. It's not visible in this particular situation, but again, that's one that you might want to consider adding if it's not already there, or looking at if you're confused about something. This is exactly the same thing, but they're divided by function. Obviously, there's a mini-map. I don't think I need to explain that to anyone. There's a couple more things that I want to show you while I'm down here on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. One's the menu. You can just press escape for that, which is much easier. History will just tell you the history of your country, which is kind of funny. Find, I've showed a couple of times. You just click this, and you can find provinces. If you type Napoli, it'll show you whatever exact matches. You can take it off, and it'll find things that it thinks are similar, but it's not very good at that, so I would avoid using that. Anyway. But the one I really wanted to show you is the ledger. And this is the spreadsheet part of the spreadsheet game. The There's a lot of information here. The ones that you're mainly going to be using are military, armies, and navies. So, for example, we can hit rivals. Oh, we don't have any. Well, we can compare our military to our new our new ally, Poland. So we've got this many infantry, cavalry, artillery. We've both got no mercenaries. I've got a lot more manpower because I cheated, and so on and so forth. And we could also put in everyone who hates us and just see, whatever. And this is really useful if you're trying to plan a war, right? So say I wanted to attack Napoli, but they're allied with Ragusa. And I'm going to be like, well, how many troops does Ragusa have? Are they going to swing this? Take all of these off, sorry. And then let's search for Ragusa. Oh, they've only got 4,000 troops. Great. This war will be easy. Let's go. Or more often, oh god, no, I'm going to get absolutely creamed. Navies, same thing. We've got more ships than them. Good to know. We can be dominant in the seas. There is a lot more information in here, as you can see, and, if you ever need to know some obscure niche detail about a country, for example, how much discipline do Brittany's troops have? Military, army quality, search for Brittany, discipline, 100%. Amazing. We can cream them. There you go, that's the ledger. That's going to be the end of this video. Thank you all very much for watching. Please smash that subscribe button, and I'll catch you next time